Hello everybody and welcome back to Gooner Fanzine TV. A bit of a different location this week. We're at the Old Red Lion in Islington. We're here to talk transfers. Obviously, January transfer window is in full swing. Arsenal have been linked with a few signings. Going to discuss those with Layth, Sergio BM, Toby Miles. So let's start with the one who's been most frequently linked, Layth Kurzawa, PSG left back. Looking like it might be a free transfer in the summer rather than now, but there has been talk of a £4.6 million move this month. Layth, your thoughts on him?
Yeah, it's quite interesting really, Dan, because I was talking to members of the French Arsenal supporters group the other day, which is having a chat about all things Arsenal, and they mentioned the lad. They're not particularly impressed by him. They don't think he's done that well at PSG. Didn't pull up that many trees at Monaco either. He's not particularly athletic. His technique's okay. His temperament's a bit suspect. You know, if you cast your mind back to the under-21 2015 tournament, he scored a goal for Poland against Sweden and basically mocked the Swedish team. Sweden obviously, you know, were really annoyed by that. They rallied and beat them 4-1. They got to the final, and every goal they scored basically was a mocking reference to the lad. Yeah, absolutely. So what does that say about his temperament, basically? So it's a bit of a worrying sort of target, really, because I don't think Arsenal need him as well. Because look at the left back situation at the moment. Obviously, Kolasinac's injured in the short term. Tierney's supposed to be back by mid-March potentially. Saka's played brilliantly. We were at Chelsea the other night. You know, it was great to see him play. So we played well against Sheffield United as well. He's raised his game recently as well. Yeah. I just don't think Arsenal need a left back. They don't need a left back this winter, and they don't need one in the summer either. So it's a very, very strange target. You do wonder whether how much of that is agent talk and how much is sort of stories getting placed. But obviously, talking to the lads in the Arsenal French supporters club, they just don't think he'd be a good addition to the club at all. Well,
another thing, he's got a really poor injury record, which in a way kind of suits him perfectly to Arsenal. But I mean, we could do without another one of those. I think we can all agree on that. Serge, is that probably a bit of a concern for you, I imagine?
I mean, it's obviously a massive concern, but the price tag is so cheap.
Yeah, so was David Luiz.
Yeah, but David Luiz was an understandable sort of. I know Glenn loves this phrase. Thank you, Glenn, but it's papering over the cracks. I think 4.6 million, whatever you said it was, that is a cheap price. And even if it doesn't work, it's not really that much in the whole scheme of things of the Arsenal wage bill. 4.6 mil to try someone out, because at the moment, obviously, we had the problem where we didn't have a fit left back, so we had to play Saka. And obviously, Saka did, grow into the position we wanted him to play, but realistically, you want Saka to play in his stronger position and actually have an actual left back in the left back position.
But what message does that send to Saka if you're saying basically, look, we're going to bring a bang average left back in to play in a position that you've been excelling in previously?
So we can actually have Saka playing further up the field where he's better.
But would he play further up the field?
At the minute, he's not playing.
Well, at the moment, our midfield options are also somewhat scant on the ground. So, look, I think we said it the last time we did transfer video, and I'll say it again this week. Our focus should entirely be on the defensive line. Yeah. That is what we need to focus on. That was the big error in the previous 35 games we played.
Centre halves, definitely.
I think Tierney's going to come very good at Arsenal. He showed very early on brilliant signs with his driving runs and his strength. And I think Kolasinac is a perfect backup.
Massively. Kolasinac is a player you
still can't cross.
With. Yeah, and I think the risk of Kurzawa is not worth it.
He's got a really poor attitude as well. I've seen a lot of reports about his questionable attitude.
I think for the rest of the season, having another person in the ranks, it wouldn't be the worst option.
I think you've got to think of this as well. Arteta's clearly planning long term, and Kurzawa to me seems like a very, very much short term option.
And he's 27 as well. He's not getting any younger either.
Well, hence why I
didn't even know he's that old.
I think our team is predominantly youngsters. I think maybe having a slightly older left back might actually help in terms of just strengthening the squad. In terms of sort of, because we are aiming to play all the Europa League, all the FA Cup, and the rest of the Premier League. We want to try and at least have a semblance of I think we need to actually reverse our structure and actually play the main strong team in the cup games and have a bit of a backup team in the league. So maybe he could be a league player and we focus Saka and Kolasinac as our sort of cup game players instead.
I think just play your strongest team all the way through now.
Of course you do, but you're thinking of the 80s when players were a bit different. I think
subtle roast.
I think we need to really, really think about how strong the opposition are. I think having a sub 5 mil left back for 4 and 5 months just to shore up a little bit of a league position whilst we focus on the cup ties with our better players, I think that's probably quite a shrewd way of doing it.
But then you're stuck with a bang average left back for next season and 2 or 3 years after.
It depends on your agreement with him. I mean, look, we sign him for 4.6 mil and then sign him signing off to Forest for 1.2 mil at the end of the season, 3 mil to have a tried and tested left back that we don't really have enough of. I don't think that's a bad expenditure.
But from what we know, an average left back.
Well, it's better than having no left back.
But we got one.
Well,
Saka.
we've got Saka, who's
For
not
the
a left
same
back, funnily enough.
But imagine if Saka actually played the position he's supposed to play and not as left back. And we focused all of our main squad on the cup ties.
Well,
I'm purely thinking of game management, and we want to play
Essentially,
our best players in the cup ties.
It's not a particularly significant signing if it happens.
No,
Essentially.
and it's not one Arsenal desperately need.
No, I agree.
No, I'm just purely doing it so we can focus all of our energies on the cup ties and keep our league left back, vaguely competitive.
I mean, I agree. I do think the price is a good price, but it's just it's more the wage bill. Just labouring another player on the wage bill that isn't needed, basically.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, look, we cleared off 900 grand in the summer per week.
Yeah.
And that's open up a huge amount of opportunities for January.
But let's not load it up with average players again, though.
No, but if we just get rid of them in the summer following, literally as, once again, Glenn's favourite phrase, literally as a plaster for the cracks.
I just think for the sake of a couple of months, we've got decent alternatives.
But what if, obviously a massive hypothetical, but what if, we are playing the Europa League and it gets quite tetchy and both of our current left backs get injured?
Then we'll play Mustafi at left back.
So why not?
Word.
Why not for 4.6
no,
mil?
well, I
just
take your point, but
just have someone there that costs literally nothing.
if we could take him on loan for one game, yeah, great if it was Europa League final. But we don't need him for 2 or 3 years.
For 4.6 mil, I think it's worth just diving in, going for it for nothing.
So what on Kurzawa? I feel like we've got a no. Yes.
Definitely no.
Would you like? I know Sergio, especially a big fan of stats, and this is a good one pub quiz actually for anyone who's watching. Remember this. We've got it taken from his Wikipedia page.
Of course. The font of all stat knowledge.
Of course, yeah. On the 31st of October 2017.
Great research.
Thank you. I'll repeat that again for anyone who wants his pub quiz. On the 31st of October 2017, Kurzawa scored his first career hat-trick against Anderlecht in a Champions League group game. In doing so, he became the first defender in modern Champions League history to score a hat-trick.
Yeah, I like that.
There you
That's
go.
a good stat.
There
I
you
do
go.
like that.
So remember that
Big
for
fan
any
of that.
pub quiz, especially the Galazio one.
What was the
Yes,
final
it's
score? Do we know?
February. I think they won 5-1. I've not got it down, but
I think he's got a lot of good attributes, but if Arteta sees him as someone he can mould, then he should go for him.
but 27 is someone.
I don't
Yeah,
think this
yeah.
is a moulding a player.
Yeah.
This is literally buy someone, put them in for the league
Yeah,
game, so
yeah.
we can focus our better players on the cup games. Because as we discussed in the podcast, the cup games are what we need to focus our energies on.
Older players, though, in the right system can be transformed as if they're younger
Hey,
players.
look, we
so,
bought
you know,
Aubameyang when he was 28,
exactly, yeah.
and he's done all right.
But he was already a proven world-class player.
Yeah, in the Bundesliga.
You saying the Bundesliga can't have world-class players?
Correct.
On that controversial opinion, we'll move on to the next player. So another player who's
Big
been
shout
linked.
to our
Yeah.
German fans.
Thank you, Serge. You've just alienated our entire German fan base. But anyway, on to the next player who has been linked with a free transfer in the summer is Dries Mertens, Napoli forward, 32 at the moment. He'll be 33 in May. Before we talk any opinions on him, I just want to read some stats on him because he has got some quite impressive stats. So in this season, he's played 20 games in all competitions, got 9 goals, not bad. In total for Napoli in 219 league games, he's got 88 goals, again, not bad. His best season, 2016-17, where he moved to a centre-forward role, he used to play as a winger. He scored 34 goals in 46 games in all competitions, so really impressive numbers. Scored for Belgium at 2 World Cups and the European Championship.
Yep.
So he's a player with pedigree, but is the age a concern? So
Well, we covered both games against Napoli last season.
Yeah.
Can you remember anything he did?
I wasn't particularly impressed with him then.
No. So and he's 32.
So
Why do we
30,
need?
we'll be 33
However,
by the time he
Yeah,
comes
and
to
if
join
Dries,
Arsenal,
if Dries Martins is the answer, what's the question?
players,
Who's
players we don't need.
Who's 30?
Actually,
Who's 32 currently plays for Napoli and could join Arsenal on a free transfer in the summer?
So, look,
We don't
I
need
mean,
him now. We don't need him in the summer. We don't
uh,
need Dries Martins. Full stop. And fair play to the agent for getting that story placed, basically, because it's absolute nonsense.
It's not a position we need filling, but look,
Do you not,
as a
do you
player
not
we
think-
as a player we watch.
No.
I Galazio London. I watch Serie
It's at
A.
London.
We show Serie A every week, and we watch every game. And our pizza chef is a ardent Napoli fan, and she will have very strong words about your opinion on him
Yeah,
being.
he's a club legend,
I
isn't
won't be having any more pizzas there for a while.
Exactly.
He's a proper club legend, isn't
look,
he? Yeah.
Napoli have got a very good team in Mertens. They got Insigne. They've obviously got Kilo at the back. He is trying to test a Serie A striker.
Yeah.
All right, and that's one of the top 5 leagues in the world.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
we've already got Aubameyang. We've already got Lacazette. We've got Martinelli coming through like an absolute firecracker. Do we really need him? If he's free transfer, that might be one thing, but the wage bill, he'll be on at least 150, 200 grand a week, something like that, when he goes to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to be quite hefty on our wage bill.
Big
It's something you were mentioning earlier. I don't think it's something we need to even bother entertaining.
Do you
Absolutely.
not think that's a good point, and I agree with you on that? But do you not think, considering his numbers and the reliance we've had on Martinelli and Aubameyang, especially this season, that he is someone who could, maybe take a bit of that weight in terms of goal scoring?
Well, let's go and buy a 25-year-old in the summer then. We don't need a 32, 33-year-old.
Just anyone who's 25.
No, a class player. We don't need a player. Admittedly, he's done well at Napoli, and I've got a huge respect for Napoli as a club. We were there, tremendous atmosphere, amazing city, good team, but ultimately Arsenal beat them 3-0 on aggregate. Didn't impress at all. He's a year older. He'll be 33, like you say, when he sign him. If we sign him, no. We just don't need him.
And a lot of the time when you bring in a more experienced player, it's for a contribution to the dressing room, and I'm not sure there's any proof.
Like
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
There's a bit of a no all round.
Resounding no.
I think if I was Crystal Palace, I would look at him.
Yeah.
As Arsenal, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Agree.
I think he's a player that could do with leaving Serie A, going to the Prem, not to Arsenal.
Was that a slam on Palace or Dries Mertens?
No, it's a slam on Palace's wage bill because they can't afford players. So they need a free player like him they can afford to get.
Anyway.
Arsenal's
enough.
front line we've been talking about as one of the best on paper in the Premier League, so
Yeah.
it really doesn't need him.
Yeah, he wouldn't add anything to it.
Well, we've got one striker who can't score, so
Yeah.
on paper, really good, but
I mean, we're not goats, we're lambs. Lacazette, Aubameyang, Martinelli.
Dries
Watch
Martin
the
could make it
podcast
too.
for our analysis on Lacazette.
it's really good. Another player who's been linked
Well
but
sold.
looks like he's going elsewhere is a young Brazilian midfielder, Bruno Guimarães. 22 years of age, plays for Atletico Paranaense, which is easy for me to say. But it looks like he's moving to Lyon. Arsenal have been kind of heavily linked with him. Edu was negotiating the move for around £25 million, but it looks like Lyon have stolen a march and will be getting him. So my question for you is, rather than based on him, do you think the Brazilian market, especially considering Edu's influence and the scout Francis Caggio, who's really unearthed some gems for Arsenal, do you think they need to explore that Brazilian market more?
Well, I think it's a massive market now. Now we've got Martinelli and he's become on the world stage. All the Brazilian agents have gone absolute dollarized because they have seen how their market has been a fairly untouched market for a long time. Because all the bigger players that of Brazilian fame that have come to Europe have come via circuitous routes. They've not come straight to the Prem.
Well, a lot have gone to Real Madrid as well. They've
Real
signed
Madrid
a lot of Brazilian
or
youngsters
Or
recently.
they've gone to Italy and then from Italy through to Spain,
Yep.
and through to Europe, through to England. So I think Martinelli's opened up the floodgates. But I think the Brazilian market is quite an untested market in terms of actual game fitness and how many games they play per season, their cup games. One thing you've got to consider about the difference purely on a geographical location is Brazil's hot.
They also get kicked up in the air a lot of the time. It's always a
Exactly.
rough league to play in.
Can you imagine, like you come to London, you're playing in the ice cold 0 degrees where everyone is significantly taller than you because the Brazilian league players are on average shorter. That is just a fact. That is true. And it's a different league to play for.
Facts from Serge.
Look, I've got family in Brazil. My name is Brazilian. I've got Brazilian heritage. I've seen a lot of
You are
Brazil.
quite short.
I am.
Are you any good at football, though, Serge?
I'm all right,
Definitely
mate.
not.
I'd absolutely hammer you.
Oh, fighting talk.
Anyway, back into the Brazilian market, which Serge is definitely not included in.
I think the Brazilian market is one that's definitely there to look at and therefore get involved in. But I think some of the names that the agents are throwing up are going to be problematic. I think you need to rely upon our scouts to really go there and actually see it properly, rather than rely on agent talk, because agent talk can be talked up massively.
Yeah.
Layth, you obviously covered a lot about Martinelli in the summer before he joined and just after he joined, and there was a lot of focus on the impact of Caggio, one of the Arsenal scouts.
Absolutely.
How big of an influence is he, especially in that kind of market?
Yeah, certainly in the Brazil market, like a very good point there, Dan. Yeah, he's you can't underestimate how important he was in that deal, how instrumental he was in that deal, and how instrumental he is in Arsenal scouting Brazilian players going forward as well. He flew back and forth to Sao Paulo so many times. He produced dossiers at London Colney. They had videos. They did their due diligence on Martinelli more than most players, basically, just to make sure he was the right player. At $6 million, he was seen as a steal, but they had to be sure it was right for spending $6 million on an 18-year-old. I think you could almost put a naught on it at the moment. You could certainly halve it and give him $30 million in valuation at the moment. He's just absolutely fantastic. Just to the point on Brazilian football, like Serge says as well. There's a Twitter account. called Twister Brazil that sort of interacts. Big Arsenal fan. Really good guy as well. He sort of sends me messages on Brazilian footballs, and he says there's so many Martinellis in Brazil. Whether they can come through to make the transition to English football is a different matter. But he says the leagues are rife with those sort of players at the moment. So you're absolutely right. If you've got coaches who are going there to exploit them, or to certainly in terms of mining that sort of talent, great. If it's the agents, then maybe less so. But there are so many good players out there.
And
So it says.
in recent years, Arsenal really lacked that sort of insight into certain talent pools. Obviously, when Wenger came in, and for the first few years, he had a massive insight into the French market. He had it on, he had it dialed, didn't he? And if Arsenal can really corner the Brazilian market and be ahead of the game with that, that'd be massive.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Obviously, as you say, when Wenger first came in, he was ahead of the game in terms of scouting players that a lot of teams wouldn't consider. And we know in world football now, there's millions of scouts all over the world watching, however many games a weekend or whatever. But do you think, obviously Martinelli coming from the Brazilian 4th division, do you think something that low down can maybe be Arsenal's niche in terms of looking a bit lower down?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, you're a good player no matter what level you play at. Basically, you can tell a good player, whether it's non-league and English football, or like you say, the 4th tier of Sao Paulo lower leagues. Basically, it's whether that potential gets translated into real sort of delivery. Basically, but there's players out there. There's a lot of players out there.
The Brazilian league is also an interesting one because, to give you an insight, I recently met an author who played in Brazil, was signed with the Brazilian team, wrote a book about his experience. They've got a really fantastic way of blooding the players in, where no matter what level of league you're in, if you're the top league, or the lower league, the accommodation for the players is always disgusting, because they don't want to get any player to get above their station and to think like, oh, they've got the money now. They're like, no, this is where you came from, this is what you play in until you keep playing. It doesn't matter. You always play, because like they'll have their changing rooms and their accommodation will just be poured concrete, shower curtains, and a pillow. That is it.
Sounds like my uni room first year.
And Go Lazio.
Wow, we
love Go Lazio.
Back to Lazio.
That's basically what it is. They don't have the trimmings and everything, so they learn to play football organically and properly. No matter what team they're in, what level they are, they get to learn to play the game without the luxury.
It's Gabriel Jesus' story, isn't it?
Basically, that's what happens in Brazil, and it's not an unusual story. You can read many books on it, and it's what helps people like Martinelli when they came in. Their mindset isn't about the luxury, isn't about the wage per week. It's about playing the game to the best of his ability.
So it teaches them a bit of humbleness. Yeah.
And I think the Brazilian market is a market going to be rife with not only obviously talented players, but players that don't have or won't have.
They've got the right attitude.
They'll have the right attitude. They'll play for the badge and they'll play for the sport. They won't play for the wage.
Yeah. Well, let's hope if we are to exploit the Brazilian market that we don't stumble across another Andre Santos. But talking about defenders,
see our worst team of the decade.
Yes, see our worst team of the decade, because he's obviously in there. We mentioned defenders in the form of Kurzawa. Obviously, in central defence is another area that probably needs a bit of cover. Callum Chambers out for the rest of the season. Kind of left with Holding, Socrates, Louise, and the hapless Squadron Mustafi. A player that Arsenal have been linked with in the past few days is Mykola Matvienko, 23-year-old centre-back from Shakhtar Donetsk. I imagine that none of us know a lot about him, but I just want to read you the quote from his agent, because it certainly sounds like he's angling for a move somewhere else. So the quote is, recently, my colleagues and I have been constantly in contact with representatives of the Arsenal, I like that, and have had meetings. So this is from Yuri Danchenko, who is Matvienko's agent. And he says, the Gunners hierarchy have already contacted Shakhtar, and we hope that these negotiations will succeed. So that to me is just him trying to angle for a move elsewhere, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of agents. Everyone knows in me will know that. But the only thing I like about that statement is he used a definitive article in saying the Arsenal, basically. But nonsense. He's angling for a move. He's not going to come to Arsenal. End of story.
But he has played 20 games for his country.
He's Ukrainian, isn't he?
Yeah. I think 20 games for Ukraine. Ukraine have always produced sort of hard nut defenders, which is something we could do definitely with having.
Oleg Luzhny.
Oh boy! I mean, at 23 is probably at an age where you could mould him into a fairly decent player. As I say, I don't imagine any of us have seen a lot.
I think Arteta can mould anyone, and I think Arteta given the opportunity, it all kind of boils down to price.
Well, you heard that, Mikel. You can mould anyone. Sergio, he said, is Brazilian. So
Look,
there's your centre forward for next season.
I'll bet you a tenner he could mould Layth into at least an academy player.
Hey, looking at Layth, he's going to need a lot of moulding.
I actually still believe I can play for Arsenal. So, you know.
Arsenal under 10s.
I'd be happy with that, honestly. I'd be
Stone.
happy.
You can join Ben Schaefer in the under 2s.
I'd be happy
For
with
any
that.
subscriber who knows that reference, well done.
Matt Bianco, he's a young prospect.
Matt Bianco, wasn't he an 80s singer?
I knew you
Matt
were going to do
Bianco.
this. You're such a child. No wonder you saw Jimmy playing for the Arsenal.
Matt Bianco is he's a young Eastern European
I'm trying to remember
player
what he's
he's quite tall as well. He's like 6'2". He's a big player. He's a big lump. He could definitely help in our centre back nightmare we've got, because we don't have a centre back partnership that we want, especially with Chambers out for the rest of the season, which is gutting.
Yeah.
And Holding isn't still back to real match fitness yet. You know, Mustafi is. Mustafi,
Hapless, hopeless,
David Luiz
woeful.
is, you know, some good games,
it's
some
hard
bad.
to see a future for Arsenal squad for any of the
defend-
centre-back
Yeah.
Bar
combinations.
holding and maybe Chambers.
Holding and
he
Chambers.
needs a breakthrough now. I mean, he
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
an initial breakthrough. He needs to step up.
Yeah, the injury
Yeah.
came at a bad time.
I
Yeah.
once again, same as we mentioned earlier, the top of the show. I think maybe get him in for the next 5 months just to shore up a position that we don't have enough depth in.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought that was a no, yes, no again.
Yes, that was a no.
Another centre back. I know Layth, you know a little bit about this guy. You wrote about him in the summer a little bit. Dejeni Dekonam played for Tafe, 28-year-old centre back.
Yeah, I did actually write about him in the summer, but yeah, I don't think he's a viable option either. I just don't think there's too many centre halves on Arteta's
You
radar
just
at
want
the
someone
moment.
with a pronounceable name, don't you?
I love
You said
Koulibaly
Layth
for
to Paul
Naples.
Merson of Gooner Fanzine TV.
For Napoli, yeah.
I absolutely love Koulibaly. I think he's absolutely brilliant. 80
He's going to
million.
cost a huge amount.
80 million. Well, Liverpool spent 75 million on Van Dijk and it transformed.
But I
them.
think Napoli would probably push us for more than 80 million.
Well,
Definitely.
yeah,
I think
but
that
that's
he
when
is-
Don Raul can just go. Do you know
he,
what?
he is their most important player
Son.
by a long way. They've got
Yeah, he's got- yeah, he
Napoli.
really
Napoli
is,
is basically
yeah.
Koulibaly in senior Mertens.
Yeah.
And with
Great.
Who Layth doesn't want.
Who left us one? Yeah. I just talked to myself in the third person there. Sorry.
I think
Layth does not want.
Koulibaly would
Dries
obviously
Mertens.
be Koulibaly would be an incredible purchase.
Toby
He
does
would
not
be-
want Dries Mertens either.
If we got Koulibaly in the Premier League, it'd be a wonderful sight to see.
Exactly. Let's
I
break the
just-
bank for him in the summer.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's a bank we could possibly break.
Maybe
Well,
maybe
I'm
raid
back-
one. Not that we're condoning bank robberies.
Back to Dejeni. Tottenham, Everton, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace have all been linked with him.
Yeah, so lower level
he
teams.
He was well, especially Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Lower
mean,
level teams, so they're
he-
interested for mid Premier League championship.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was
No
really
interest.
important for Tafe last season. They almost qualified for the Champions League, missed out by a couple of points in the Europa League this season. The one thing that I know is probably going to put Layth off, especially, is that he was scouted by none other than the slick Spaniard himself, Unai Emery.
Oh really? Yeah. I did actually write about that. Yeah. No, Emery's got a bit of a track record. He scouted Guendouzi. He got put Guendouzi into
What,
Arsenal,
yeah,
didn't he?
Guendouzi when he was at PSG.
no.
Absolutely, as an academy. Yeah. So yeah.
That was well. There's a bit of story about Guendouzi, but Sven Mislintat basically was the one who uncovered Guendouzi. It
Yeah,
was-
but obviously Emery knew who he was
yeah,
because
yeah.
he was at PSG with him basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously Mislintat brought him in. Yeah.
I
Agree
don't
with that.
think we can really particularly rely upon a lot of these sort of possibles. Like you say, Getafe were off Champions League spots. We were off Champions League spots with as bad defence as it
Yes,
was.
but it's Tafe.
Yeah. But the Spanish league is an irrelevant league apart from the top three.
Right, so basically in this video we've learned so this is like the Bundesliga or La Liga.
Hello to all our
La
La
Liga
Liga
fans.
fans.
Serie A and the Premier
Yeah,
League,
the
yeah.
Premier League, yeah.
The two best leagues in the world. What more do you want? Premier League, La Liga, no. Serie A, yes. Premier
France?
Liga in Portugal, bang on.
France?
It's,
What?
You mean the PSG league?
Fighting
No, sorry.
talk.
No,
seriously.
PSG have only been the top league. They're not even the top titles holders of the league anyway.
If you enjoy random rants about assists, then also watch Serge's rant in our podcast.
So, Toby, have you seen anything of Dejeni or?
I've honestly not much clue about him, to be honest. I'd be interested to know is there any further movement on Boateng?
No,
Good
that
question.
seems to have gone a bit cold. Obviously,
They obviously-
in the
So
last-
it should. He's 31 years and
Dan,
old. And
I-
losing.
They
I'd
watched
just
our
like to
video.
explain
Dan.
to
They watched
people-
our video and they went, you know what?
Yeah,
Don't want
obviously,
Spot on.
in the last transfer video we spoke about Jerome Boateng, who'd been linked with an £8 million move
Not
to
for me.
Arsenal. really the links have gone cold. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Basically, I mean, you're delighted with that.
Very
I
delighted.
mean, you weren't a big fan of it happening either.
I like him as a player. I like him as a sportsman. I just don't think his age.
As a sportsman. What does that mean?
Because alright. Seriously.
I think the way he plays
Have a
the
big
game,
weekend, sir.
the way he plays the game,
Of
the
course
way
he did,
treats-
Serge. He's always a big weekend.
the way he plays the game and the way he treats his opponents, I think it's admirable. It's a really nice way of doing it. He cares about if a striker goes down, he looks after him.
But you shouldn't care, though, should you?
No, but
White line fever, you don't care.
No,
once
after
you
the ball's gone out, obviously, after he stopped a goal. But
Wow.
look, he's
Stamp on the hands with the rest
for
of the
signing a
So
footballer.
we want
saying
a
that I
centre
don't
back
want-
who really has an emotional
We
side.
want an
to him.
emotionally
That's what I'm
intelligent
saying,
centre back.
I
Is
don't
that what
want
you're
to sign
saying?
him, but I respect what he can do.
I
what he
respect his
achieves,
emotional intelligence.
but I don't want him.
Emotionally
I want a
intelligent.
hard.
Considering the things that Serge has said so far, I'm interested to see what his opinion on this will be. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang
He plays for Arsenal already.
has been linked with a.
Done deal.
Yeah.
Sorted that.
It's not January
Sorry,
2018, though.
He's been linked with a loan move to Barcelona. And
Nonsense.
basically,
Not going anywhere.
Within my notes, I've written Albert to Barca on loan, no chance, lads.
No chance.
There are some stories you think, what were they drinking when they wrote this? That is possibly the stupidest, most random,
Alone is
pointless article they've ever written.
I mean, it's
If they were
basically-
gonna, Aubameyang's
to be fair,
32.
if the story,
Why on earth would you even loan him?
I know.
You would
yeah.
sell him.
That'd
Why
be
would
such
you
an
do it
Arsenal
in-
thing to do, but
Why
no,
would you
yeah,
do it in
exactly.
January? No, it's stupid.
I
Waste
think,
of time. Pointless.
Suarez is on his way out of Barcelona soon.
Well, he's injured at the moment, hence why they're after a striker.
He's injured, and after the summer they could be looking for basically a replacement.
Surely just go for Lewandowski. That's what they'll do.
How much would that cost?
I know, we're not going to talk
Yeah,
about
that's
Barcelona transfers,
Yeah.
are we?
They got enough money. They could do what they want.
Yeah, true.
One last quick one. Another striker, Eddie Nketiah. It looked like he was going to be leaving on loan, possibly to a championship club. Looks like he's staying now.
Good. Great news.
Good.
Yeah. Great news.
That's what we want.
Love Eddie. Love Eddie. Like you said, we interviewed him in the summer at the kit launch at the Emirates, and he just wants to play football and he wants to score goals, and that's good enough for me. Yeah, he obviously came on as a sub against Sheffield United on Saturday. Needs more games, need more game time, needs to be match fit. But yeah, it's a great move. I want him to stay and play as many games as possible. I think he will with the Europa League coming up and the FA
well,
Cup
you
as
mentioned the Europa League, obviously, with the focus now kind of being a bit more on the cup competitions. A player like him who can come off the bench, we know he can score goals.
Yeah.
He scored first team goals for Arsenal.
Yeah.
We've seen it under 23 level, under 18 level.
Yeah,
he's a predator.
He's a fantastic player, and it's such a shame that Bielsa just didn't utilise him enough.
Yeah,
It's a real shame because I think
Patrick Bamford is definitely better.
Form at Chelsea.
I mean, because I was really
Striker.
hoping that Nketiah would come to us next season fully charged after an incredible season under Bielsa. Because Bielsa's one of those managers that even Pep Guardiola said he is like an incredible manager. Like the things that he can tell you and teach you.
Yeah.
It's such a shame that Nketiah wasn't there for long enough to really soak it all in.
Yeah. Talking about Bielsa, I actually made a point of watching Take Me Home, and it's brilliant.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Watch it if you like that sort of thing. Brilliant. And he came across some really good guys.
I love everything Bielsa did. The whole
You went
snooping.
really Irish.
Yeah,
there.
that was
weird.
weird.
I
love
love Bielsa.
Because when it the binoculars over the fence, absolutely marvellous.
Binoculars.
So that's it from us in terms of transfer talk this week. Make sure you watch our podcast that we recorded earlier today. We'll have Up for Grabs as well with myself and Serge. We'll also be at Bournemouth on Monday, so make sure you watch our reaction and player ratings from that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and make sure to like, subscribe, and cheers.
Come on, Matvienko.